welcome to the Behind the Tee podcast with Rob and Kelly. How's it going, Rob?
It's going very well. How are you?
Not too bad. It's still spring outside, so spending all the
Yes.
time I can outdoors, outside of my own little bubble.
And speaking of bubbles, are we still in? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had a good segue, and that was not one of them.
I don't know if this is going to be the official title of this podcast, but in terms of our recording session, I just called it, Are We Still in the Bubble? Do you know who's not in the bubble this week anymore? Kathy Gauthier. I'm sure she's very happy.
That's true. I bet she actually still is. She must have like a tent there or something, and I know she doesn't have to be, but I wonder if you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to leave. This is my home now.
Kind of gets Stockholm syndrome with the bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
I assume she lives in Manitoba, but she should be making her way back in a week to a week and a half for the Women's Worlds. So sure she's looking forward to that. But outside of bubbles, I want to throw this out there before we forget about it. But I have recruited, or I'm in the process of recruiting someone else to our curling ladder team.
Okay, so because we're always looking for players when we are able to curl.
Exactly. For a Tuesday night league, you need like a 7-man team to make sure you always have someone available.
There's many last minute phone calls that we make desperately trying to find people. So let's just run through the list so far because I've already lost track. So we've got you and me. Mm-hmm. We've got Brian Mudryk.
Yep.
Tom Brady is next. I forget who we recruited last week. I think we did somebody.
Wasn't it Tom Brady that we recruited?
I think there was somebody else too. I don't know, whatever. But who's the latest?
Oh, well, this person, I think they're going to be a great contender for our team. They are athletic. They come from a sports background, so we know that they're going to be physically fit. They're going to have a lot of time on their hands because they have just retired from their previous commitment. So I think that they're going to be a reliable person. And that is, this person is also from my favorite football team. So Julian Edelman has officially announced his retirement this week. So I slid into his DMs, I don't want to say congratulating him, but I say, you need something else to do now. Yeah. Please come and play for our curling team. He has yet to respond. But I'm quite confident that he will accept because how can you refuse that, right?
Of course. How many curling Patriot fans reach out to him?
Well, not that many.
I'm assuming not.
And if Tom Brady's already on board, like they're BFFs, they're gonna come. It's a little more of an incentive. And then if both of them are gonna play with us, you know that they're just gonna bring Gronk, right? Because he doesn't want to be out of the loop.
Oh, Gronk. Oh, that would be something.
Yeah.
I think I've already said this, but I want to see him slam a curling rock.
Oh my God.
You know all those people that were really mad at like Steve Laycock for busting the ice at the Briar? Like just wait till Gronkowski is curling. Like then you'll have something to complain about.
Could you imagine? I could see Gronk I think his position. So you know how every curling position has like a set personality or like a stereotype of the type of person that would play that position?
Yes.
Yeah. I would put Gronk as a second.
As a second,
yeah. And I feel like if you were to call him a peel weight takeout, he'd like blast the rock in two.
He's not going to come up light.
Oh, that's for sure. You already know, like he's so tall that by the time that he can get into a slide position, he's already at the other end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What would you put him? You don't think he's a good second?
No, I agree. The more I think about it, like he seems like a natural second. Yeah. I see a lot of myself in him. Not in the football or general talent point of view, but in the always being heavy when trying to throw a crucial draw. And like, if the house were just like where the hack was, my draw weight would be so much better.
Maybe we should make mini curling a thing. Remember we used to do that a lot, practice to work on strategy and stuff like that.
Oh man, yeah. I remember that.
I feel like this is how our team is going to be set, okay? If we get Tom Brady, Gronk, and Edelman, I'll skip. Because they don't know like the finesse of the game.
Right. We need experience at the skip position.
I think we can do a thing where Tom Brady, he'll play third, but maybe throw last rocks.
Yeah.
He can. Okay. Because he can do that under pressure thing.
Yeah. You want to be in the house with Tom Brady. I know how it is.
And then we got Edelman at lead and Gronk at second. I think that's a solid team.
Hey, and what am I doing here? What happened to me? I'm the one getting you all beer,
exactly.
Right? There we go.
Well, unfortunately, only 4 people can play at a time, Rob, so
That's
you can
true.
replace
So
me when I'm on my days off.
there we
Yeah.
go.
Alright, well, all jokes aside,
Yeah, that's a pretty world class team, I would
yeah.
say. And speaking of world class, is that a better segue? I
Yes,
don't
I
know.
think
Not
so.
really, but
So did you I guess to kinda loop back to last week's episode, did you successfully manage to avoid finding out who won the world championship on Monday?
I actually did. So what we were talking about last week was that with the bursting of the bubble, if you will, with when we had some positive cases, everything got shut down, and then they ended up playing the final of the World Championships at 11 o'clock at night for us here in the East. So we, or what I tried to do was, what did you call it? The Super Bowl challenge, where you try to go without finding it. Yeah. So I PVR'd it. I was very careful about making sure I PVR'd the right TSN feed so that I didn't end up taping golf. I turned off or I put my phone in airplane mode for an entire day. I don't know, like I don't get too many important phone calls. Usually it's just like little messages from people, but I missed like at least 3 important phone calls.
It's like the day you put it on airplane mode is the one day that you have an emergency and need to
Oh,
be
of course,
contacted?
yeah. A call from work, I had a call from a notary, things like that, like all of that important stuff. Yeah, airplane. It was fun to explain to them. Oh yeah, so I was doing this challenge thing. I did pull it off. I did actually see somebody that I work with, who is a curler, and we chat about curling all the time. I saw her turn the corner, and I kind of scurried away before I could have a conversation with her. All that to say, I got home and I was able to watch the game in I had about 2 hours time. So by the way, curling is pretty good to watch fast forwarded. You just
Mhm.
you skip between all the shots, so it's not that bad to catch up and get the general gist of things. And yeah, I got to see Nicholas Edin win for what is it? His is it his sixth no,
His 5th
third in a row,
3rd
right?
in a row, 5th all time.
Fifth all time. And I had this written down, his sixth final in 8 years.
Oh my god. I think he has a record now too for the most world championships, or
He
is he
must.
tied?
Yeah. I think
I think he
if
won.
not,
He's definitely the first one with the 3 in a row.
okay, yeah, and I don't know, Kelly. I've done like no research for this at all. All I have is I did scribble down a few things that they mentioned
Okay.
while I was watching that final, and I somehow wrote down that he had this is his sixth final in 8 years, and the line that I have written right next to that is, "Why the hell did I bet against him?"
I know.
I don't understand.
Yeah, we definitely learned that to, never bet against Eden, because he's just the GOAT of curling right now. But I think I was swayed to go with the other teams a little more just because they were a little rocky at the beginning, but also like every other team was. You know, like
Hmm.
even against Canada, it wasn't their best performance. So I was like, oh, maybe this is the year that Eden just doesn't perform as well. Also because they haven't had as much playing time as they normally would. So it's not the team that we're used to seeing. But there you go. Oh, we were wrong again, as we always are. And he won, of course.
And I wanted to throw out there that I mean, I guess I watched it fast forwarded, so I can't really speak to the actual quality of the game, but from what I noticed, I thought it was really well played by both teams. I have it here that in the first end, Sweden was really up against it. Scotland made everything, and he was shooting again. There was a really good chance of a steal of three,
Hmm.
and I don't remember the exact shot. I think it was a really good pressure draw,
Yep.
and you knew he wasn't going to miss
Yeah.
it.
He essentially had to draw the button, I think, if I remember correctly. It's been a week now.
Me too. I barely remember what happened yesterday, but yeah, really impressive to do that in the first end of a World Championship final. He made it look easy.
Yeah. And kudos to Scotland, too. I think this was their first final. Last year they won bronze. But yeah, this is their first final going up against Eden. Like they definitely held their own and performed well. Unfortunately, things didn't go their way. And especially at the end there when Sweden, I think they got 5 or 6 in that last end.
Oh yeah, that last end, yeah, when they blew it open.
Yeah, which was unfortunate. I missed that. So yeah, the game was at 11 p.m. and on a Sunday. So I brought my laptop to bed, and my goal was just to see how far into the game I can make it before I fall asleep. and I made it. I think I texted you the next day without spoiling it, but I made it up until the sixth end, so almost at the end of the game.
And I'm such an idiot, by the way, because the first thing you said was no spoilers, which I assume you meant were I'm not about to spoil this for you, Rob.
Exactly.
But what I thought that meant is that you were doing the same stupid thing that I was. Don't spoil it for you. So I avoided writing back for a long time until I finally figured out, maybe like a day later, oh, that's what she meant.
Yeah, so I fell asleep around the sixth end. It was still like pretty tight, but I had a hunch that Sweden was gonna win. Like I think they were definitely dominating at that point. But then yeah, I worked the next day and then pulled up the YouTube and just kind of like had it in the background and then
Hmm.
saw that last shot. So yeah, which is
Yeah.
great.
And if I remember, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Another thing which is great also to for all of those out there who don't have cable, you can watch it on YouTube and you can do like I do and just play it on 1.5 speed. That's
Oh,
almost how I watch all my YouTube videos at the moment now is just 1.5 speed. Or like those tutorials where people just talk forever. They'll teach you I don't know how to open a jar that won't open, right? But there's like a 5-minute intro onto like
first, I want to thank my sponsors of
exactly. And you just want to get like to the gist of it.
like,
So yeah,
yeah.
just watch everything on 1.25 or 1.5 speed and
Oh, that is smart. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm curling as a sport best viewed fast forwarded.
yeah, especially those the first shots. I mean, not to shame the front end.
I know we're useless.
Well, even come on, even TSN doesn't always show the leads
That's
rocks.
right. They go to a commercial during the. Actually, there was a big though in that game or in the final in that decisive end where Sweden blew it open.
Mhm.
I got to go with what I wrote down here. They did hog one of the guards. I think Scotland did, and it
Yeah.
wasn't even close. Like it was well hogged.
Yeah. That's something that you don't see very much, especially on
No.
arena ice. So arena like we've hogged quite a fair share of rocks or and when I say we, I mean our team. We've hogged a fair share of rocks at the curling club during our league, but sometimes the ice in a curling club can be very heavy, especially if it's super
Hmm.
cold outside. But arena ice is super slick. Like you just have to breathe and like the rock is going to go to the other end.
And we've already mentioned in this particular episode how I'm known for kind of breezing right through the house. Can you imagine me on arena ice? Boy, that's not going to go
No,
well.
this is why we haven't gone competitive in mixed doubles.
Hmm.
Yeah. But no, I feel like it was a good game overall. Again, it was just kind of if you watch the end, it was just kind of like meh because there were no fans to cheer
Oh
on, you
yeah,
know?
I guess I'm kind of used to that by now. In fact, I've been whenever I see crowds now, I have a weird feeling about it. Normally, I look at things like that and I say, "Oh, well, that must have been taken over a year ago or something." Now, when I see people without masks or in groups, I get weirded out by it. It's the I hate the expression "the new normal," but
Yeah.
it's I would have felt really weird if somebody had come and like actually given them a trophy or if there had been actual fans.
But you know how at the beginning of this whole thing, before they even started the bubble, we made the comment of, we're not sure how exciting the games are going to be because there are no fans and just that whole hype is going to be gone. I'm actually loving the no fan thing. Like I have no
Yeah,
problem
I
with
am.
it.
I am. Yeah. I what I've discovered in sports is that I don't really miss the fans. In most sports, they just fake that anyway.
Actually, no. Didn't have a problem with it for football, but for soccer, it was a game changer. I watched the Champions League game,
Hmm.
which is the biggest game in soccer for the year. And just seeing the empty stands, it was not the same thing. Like the game was so boring, which I'm sure a lot of people would say soccer games are boring, but there was definitely like a decrease in energy, whereas curling there wasn't. And my theory
Hmm.
on this is the reason why is because in curling or even in football, they don't often show the fans. You don't see the crowd. So it really doesn't make a difference. Whereas soccer, it's always like panned out. So you see
Right.
the stands just full of people. And now you just see empty chairs and it just looks like a practice game or something. So I feel like the fact that we're not seeing the fans is really making a difference.
That's true. I feel the same way in hockey too. Like I hear the crowd noise, but it's the same shot. Like you see the empty stands all around and you know that there's something weird about it. But for curling, you're right. It's not part of the shot. It's generally pretty quiet during a regular game anyway.
Yeah, except for those big shots done by the skip or
Right.
whatever, but they rarely ever show the crowd.
No, that's right. Except for like the people that are all dressed up
Oh yeah.
and like that I miss. That was always fun. But you're right. No, I'm used to it. But actually, oh,
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, one thing that we didn't get this year at the Worlds was the Swiss cowbell, because I feel that one we always hear. Someone always comes with a cowbell,
Oh, that is true.
which
And that they should have had like Havard Vad Pedersen who was coaching them. He should have been allowed to have a
yeah.
cowbell or something.
I also, out of curiosity, where do you buy a cowbell?
I don't know.
Like, I've never been to a store and seen a cowbell. Can
I
you
know.
order this on Amazon? I don't know.
I wonder. We
Can you
should.
imagine if one of the Swiss people like packs a cowbell onto the plane?
We've both been to Switzerland, I happen to know, and I don't remember. Now I want to be like, are they like everywhere there? Are they in stores
No.
or is it one of those like souvenir things you pick up at the airport?
I guess so. I mean, I don't know where you went in Switzerland. I was in Zurich in like the university campus. There wasn't a lot of
Hmm.
cowbell there.
Okay, yeah. I was in Geneva, and I've been to the airport in Zurich, so I saw the touristy stuff. I don't
I
remember
saw
any
a lot of
cowbells.
chocolate and cheese. That was
Oh, speaking of chocolate and
uh-huh.
cheese, because the final that we're talking about happened after the COVID scare, which turned out to be a bunch of false positives. But when the games did resume, we should point out that everybody was wearing masks. So it's the first time I've watched curling with everybody wearing masks, and you could tell that the players were having a bit of trouble with it.
Mhm.
I know that the Scottish team, who I think win the award for best sweepers in the World Championship, that poor front end, they were gassed.
Oh
The
yeah.
he kept having to lift up his mask just to get in as much air as he possibly
Yeah,
could.
you often saw the like just pulling it at the bottom to get more air. Well, I mean, I don't
Hmm.
blame them. This year, the two times that we managed to get onto the ice, just getting up
Oh
and
yeah, it
sweeping
was
my own
hard.
rock, I was like, I need to get some air in. And especially too, because as you're breathing in, the fabric goes into your mouth, so you're kind of like
Hmm.
asphyxiated a little bit. It's not a comfortable feeling. So kudos to
No, it
them.
isn't. Yeah, and just to make the connection to cheese and chocolate is that the Swiss team, they were wearing the standard procedural masks, but apparently when they showed up, they were wearing masks that had like the cross on them, one of them, but also Swiss cheese and a chocolate or a cow motif as well.
Oh, they branded.
They did, and or I never really saw it. I heard Vic mention it, but I did see it on their coach, which we've mentioned is Havard Vad Pedersen, who of Thomas Ulsrud fame, and I'm like, no wonder, of course,
If anyone's on that team is gonna do something a little more outrageous, it's gonna be him.
it's going to be him. So I think we got to put the crosshairs here on our good friend Torger. Kind of let us down
Yeah,
in the fashion sense here.
very boring. They wore black pants.
And I mean, we've already said I get it. The Norway team probably doesn't want to be compared to Thomas Ulsrud for the rest of their career, which we're going to do anyway. But you've got one of the members on your team, so
That's true. Maybe like off ice, he still keeps the extravagant outfits. Just for the ice,
maybe.
he tries to blend in with the teams a little more. Well, speaking of the Swiss, while we're on that topic, they did actually end up winning the bronze medal. So they were in the game Russia against Russia for that bronze medal game. Also played at 11 p.m. at night at the same time as the gold medal game. And also, congratulations to them. They played 3 games that day, three almost 10 end games, but
Hmm.
to anyone out there who has done that, I have done that, and let me tell you, it is exhausting come that 3rd
Yeah.
game, like, you're
And
really
here at the end of a week.
you're digging in deep to get that energy at the end of the week for a bronze medal game, which, let's be fair, no one really wants to play anyway.
No. And you didn't have to do it in a mask when you did it.
Yeah, that too. And also, I think I mentioned this last week, but because of the whole false positive thing that was going on, like they really didn't know when they would be able to play. And they woke up at 8 a.m. that morning and they were told, like, okay, you're going to be on the ice in 2 hours, play your quarterfinal game. So, it must have been a heck of a day. And unfortunately, I don't know, I guess they haven't had a lot of time to recoup. The Worlds finished on Sunday, and then Thursday they started the Grand Slam. And let me tell you, the Crews did not. It was not their week for curling.
No, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant
Go
here.
for it.
So I have somebody to blame for all of this,
Oh,
and
are you throwing someone under the bus?
oh, you bet. And I think I'm gonna convince you to agree with me too, because we have debated. Or first of all, just to answer the question, I blame the Swiss Federation.
Whoa, this
I
is big
know.
accusations here.
I know here. But the reason is, well, first of all, we've debated what countries use the best formats for choosing their national representatives or their Olympic representatives. We've talked about that a lot. I think if I remember, we like the Canadian model, even though it's very difficult to win. At least everybody's got a shot, and you can't really have any cronyism or anything like that, or conflicts of interest, as we've seen in other countries where they handpick people,
Mhm.
and I think actually undermine or the health of the sport as a result when they don't give other competitors their fair game. So we've said all of that. Switzerland appears to be taking what I'm going to call the worst of both worlds in their form, because I always assumed they did like us, but apparently what happened was the Swiss Federation told Team de Cruz, we're going to give you the Olympic spot if you come first or second. But they didn't. So they came third. Not good enough. So now they have to play off for the. Oh, good. Kelly agrees with me because her jaw just
Guys,
dropped.
yeah, my jaw literally just dropped. You can't
That's
see
right.
this, but
I know. That's why I'm commentating. But yeah, that was
that was
what they
their
chose to do.
wow.
So because they came third, which let's be honest, pandemic year, 14 teams
Yeah.
coming third in the world after the kind of week that they had, not that bad. They have to play off against Yannick Schwaller, who is another really good team. Really, in my opinion, they should be playing off. They should be playing off against each other anyway. But what the hell kind of thing is that to tell a team, if you do this well, we'll give it to you? As if
Yeah.
there was not enough pressure of already competing on the world stage. Now they were playing for essentially two titles at once.
Plus 2 titles, plus getting the country a spot into the Olympics, right?
And I have to put myself in their shoes, which is not easy to do because I am not exactly a world championship caliber curler. But I'm trying to think that if I were there, I, especially, what if they had made the final? I have to be honest, I would not care at all. I mean, yes, I would. I would want to win it, but really the relief of having secured the Olympic spot is what I would be really playing for.
It's like you would have been satisfied winning silver. Like, of course you want to win gold, but you're like, "You know what? We just got our spot to the Olympic. It's been a long week. We got silver. We got more funding. All's
Yeah.
good."
So I ultimately think there should be a playoff between De Cruz and Schwaller and whoever else is out there in Switzerland, as we do here in
Mhm.
Canada. But to dangle it in front of Team De Cruz like that and then take it away, I think is I no, just have a playoff or declare your team.
Yeah, and honestly too, I don't think it benefits the Cruz as well because it's just that added pressure, right? Because now
Yeah,
you're like, oh no, this is not just the Worlds. It's like we're playing for our spot to the Olympics, and any other added pressure, well, it's going to affect your game, and if things don't go well, well, then it can just quickly spiral out of control. Not that it did, but it's definitely it played tricks on your minds. And going into a world championship, you want the fewer stressors on your team.
yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if this is a written rule in Swiss curling or if this is just some deal that the federation made with Team De Cruz, but either way, I hate it.
Hmm.
Um
It
and
sucks, but it's like that for a lot of European teams. But going into actually to get to the Worlds, De Cruz and had to play another team 5 times. It was like a best out of 5,
right, I
and
believe it
it
was
was against
Schwaller.
Schwaller. And Yeah, Schwaller won the first 2 games, and then De Cruz came back and won 1, 2, like 3, 4, 5 to win.
Oh man.
So
So clearly these teams are really good.
mhm.
I think it's ridiculous to declare your team now, or if you are, okay, but to declare it with an asterisk, I mean, ugh.
I'm gonna throw this question out to you, right? Let's say you're a team De Cruz. You're playing in the Worlds, and you need to get first or second in order to claim your Olympic spot. I don't know if you remember, but De Cruz or Switzerland won, I think they won bronze in the last Olympics.
I think I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Let's take a little pause to
Okay,
fact
yeah.
check this because this is important. Yeah, so they finished third. So, yeah, question to you, Rob. Put yourself in Switzerland's shoes, or actually put yourself into Team De Cruz. You're in the World Championship. You know that you have to finish first or second in order to get your Olympic spot. However, you already been to the Olympics as part of Team De Cruz, and you already have a bronze medal. How much importance are you putting into getting that first or second spot at the Worlds? Are you super keen on going or getting that spot just because the Olympics is the, ultimate goal for any athlete? Or are you more along the lines of, I want to get the spot, but I've already been there. I have the experience, so I'm not as um keen.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Very interesting question. I've always been of the mind where if I accomplish something, I don't feel the need to do it again.
Mhm.
However, I have never heard that from another competitive player.
Well, also the Olympics is just a whole other ball game. It's not like the Worlds where you're like, "Oh, there's always next year." The Olympics only come every 4 years, and you only
Absolutely.
have X amount of shots at it before
Right.
you're too old.
We have to be careful because I'm thinking like if we ever interview Ben Hebert on the podcast, because he's been to the Olympics and he went back to, if we had asked him the question, yeah, you'd be okay with missing out on the Olympics, right? You've already been. Now you've been twice. I'm sure he would kill us.
Yeah.
So I think that for most competitors,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if they've been before. In fact, and I think for the Olympics, not that we would know, but I think they probably, because they've been there, they want to go back more than
Because you
anything.
never hear an athlete being like, "Oh, I've been to the Olympics," and it was like, it was an okay experience, right? Like, no one ever says that. They
That's
always
right.
come back with, "It was the best experience of my life," and all the stories and all the stories that they'll never
Yeah.
publicly tell. And
That's right. That's just that. It's funny. That's what my parents say about going to the Olympics as fans when they were in Montreal. Oh yeah, I saw a soccer game between two countries I'd never heard of from the last row of the Olympic Stadium. It was okay, but yeah, as athletes, as competitors,
mhm,
of course not. So I think that this means the world to them,
mhm.
and I think that they were playing all week trying to win two things at once, and I think that must have taken its toll on them. And if I were them, and again, I don't want to speculate or make excuses for them, but I would be completely 100% mentally checked out for this Humpties, whatever it is that's going on right now. I don't even know what it's called.
I think
Sorry.
it's the Champions Cup.
Cup?
Yeah.
Something
It's
you drink out of.
Princess Auto is a sponsor.
Oh, I thought it was Humpties.
No, I think Humpties might be the next one. I
Oh,
can
okay.
only
What do
tell
I
you
know?
this because I actually only watched one game, and by one game I mean 4 ends before I fell asleep, and Princess Auto was on the button. So
Okay. Actually, so we should talk about that quickly because I haven't watched anything either, or I've watched maybe a couple of ends, very, very little. Um, enough to know or to not even know what the title sponsor is. But
well, we already shared our thoughts on the Grand Slam and how
right,
we
and
don't
it's
care about it as much as some of the other.
no, I think, and I mean, I don't want to speak for other curling fans, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that will agree with us that the fun in watching curling on TV is seeing people compete for their province and country, and not the elite teams competing for how much money they're about to make. We all know they're rich, or rich curling in curling.
That's a very
Yeah, correct frame of reference here.
yeah.
They're richer than we are. They're making more money curling than we
Can
are.
I make a tangent really quickly or just
For
make a
sure.
little comment um based on the couple ends that I did watch last night? I do have to say that I find the whole ambiance of the Grand Slams a little more relaxed. I find the people who are doing the commentating are much more chilled. I think the
Yeah.
players, you can definitely tell they're more relaxed because again, they're not playing for a championship title. They're just there to win a couple extra tens of thousands of dollars. So I don't know, it has a more casualness to it, which I actually liked.
There is, and I do think they've gotten a lot of things right in the way they manage it. It's just that
We don't care.
the end goal of the like who wins it, or I don't know, is anybody actually like actively keeping track of it? I know we're not. And I think the other thing though is that in a normal year, I would maybe pay a bit more closer attention to it if it were on in like October or something
Mhm.
like that. Because the way the curling season works is the big part that all that, or by all, I really just mean you and me, but I assume a lot of other people too. The part that we care about happens between February, March, April.
Mhm.
And we don't really get a break from it. By the time April rolls around, we're pretty exhausted from watching curling for a month. But there's nothing really going on in October. There's nothing really going on in January. Those Grand Slams, I think, are well placed. But for this one to be the week after the World Championship, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And there's another one next week as well.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like
Like,
they're fitting 2 in because they wanna have some grand slams, and it's the only opportunity this year to have them. But yeah, I totally agree with you. After, last Sunday, I was just like, "I really don't care." I'm like Switzerland. I'm just, like, mentally exhausted from watching all the curling.
I
So
know.
and also
And it's our
too
job to do
yeah,
this.
and it's just for what? I'm just watching the same teams that I just watched 2 weeks ago play again.
But the other thing I want to give them credit for, although even then I don't know how I feel about this, but they're playing with modified rules.
Oh, what are the rules this time?
Yeah, so this is important, and I can't tell you this from watching because I've not really seen anything. A listener had to tell me this. But if you get a rock on the center line,
Okay.
so like the first few rocks, the first 5
Uh-huh.
rocks, if they are on the center line, you cannot peel them, obviously, if they're center line guards, but you can't tick them either.
Oh, yes. Okay, I heard about this
Or you
too.
can touch them, but you cannot move them off the center line. So you can only move them like a
Yeah,
centimeter.
so I heard about this too, because all year we've been talking about all of these blank ends. The players are getting too good. The game's just kind of getting boring, and so we've added, the 5 rock free guard zone, which isn't really doing anything. And what the teams have figured out is like, oh, well, if you just tick it, then we're
Yeah.
back at square one. And all the teams have gotten so good at ticking. So now,
Hmm.
yeah, they're pondering the idea of making it a free hit zone and not just hitting, but like take, like you can't touch the rock.
Right. So are you pro or con for
Um,
I can't comment. I've not even noticed. If my dad didn't tell me this, I would not have even
yeah,
noticed.
okay. Well, here's the thing. I have not put a lot of thought into this. My only hesitate
Okay, good. Neither have I.
so maybe I have to think about it more and like strategy wise, see it play out. I just I feel like it's like I understand having wanting to put rules in place to make sure that the game is like stimulating and challenging, good for the fans to watch, that we're actually having a quality curling game and it doesn't advantage a team that's in the lead or a team that's not in the lead. But I feel like we have to be careful not to cross that line where the rules just start getting too complicated and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, in this situation you can do this, but then not that. And then it's just, I feel like we still have to keep it simple to a certain extent. And I don't know if this whole free tick zone rule is just too much. I don't know.
I agree with you. For a sport that's so heavily based in tradition, I feel like we really can get gimmicky
Mm-hmm.
and embrace these gimmicks. Like you and I have talked about the power play and mixed
Yep.
doubles. I feel like this is kind of like that. Although I have thoughts in both directions. Like my other thought is that, well, this is a perfect time to experiment. This is a thing where really, I think, let's be honest, not a lot of people are tuning in to the way they were to other things a few weeks ago. I'm willing to guess the ratings will not be as high as they were for the Briar Tournament of Hearts or Worlds. So why not experiment and see what happens? But my other thought that I just thought about today was so we've already mentioned that one day we should have Ben Hebert on the podcast, but let's keep this going. Let's invite Lisa Weigel.
Yeah.
What does she have to say about this? She's made a whole career out of being amazing at tick shots. And that's something I feel a bit awkward about, is that I'm all for, okay, experimenting and maybe seeing if people like this, but I feel awkward that this is her specialty. And because she's so good at it, now she's not allowed to do it anymore.
And also, too, it kind of sets precedent, right? Because whatever rule we implement, teams are going to find a way around it to make it advantageous for them. So, okay, right now the tick shot is like the shot to have in your tool bag. Now we add this rule of you can't take a shot. So what's going to happen? Teams are going to find out ways around that, and other shots are going to become the shot to have in your tool belt. Well, then what happens then? Are we gonna just keep making new rules while teams keep
That's
getting
it.
better and better? What's the end
That's
game,
it.
right?
That's right. And I think the thing that we've pointed out before is that this only affects the top 1%.
Mhm.
We don't even need the 5 rock rule the way we play. And we're very clear that we're not world championship caliber, but we're not that bad. We've played competitively and we didn't need it
I
then.
would change Rob, to just club curling. I feel like at the club level, just keep it general at the club level. I mean, the 4 rock rule doesn't even come into play at club level most of the time anyways.
No, a lot of people don't even know don't even know about it.
Exactly.
But
So at the club level, these things really don't matter.
But even then, at like the peak of, because we both have competitive experience, and at the peak of it, which is nowhere near what we're watching on TV, but uh, these things were not big deals. You would see the caliber of curling was much higher than maybe what we're accustomed to now, with respect to all the people
But
we
even
play.
elite curling back in 2010, when we were at the height of our careers, was much different than what it is now, too, right?
I guess.
So it's a hard to tell.
I still think though that these things are done for the top
Hmm.
1%, and I just don't think it's worth rewriting the rule book when 99% of the sport won't even notice this.
Yeah, that's true. Fair point.
Can I just tell a quick funny
Yes,
story
go for it.
of from our club experience? Because speaking of competitive play, I still in a normal year I curl with you on Tuesdays, and I curl with another friend of mine on Thursday who we have a lot of competitive experience together. We play for fun now. And a couple of years ago, the other team violated the 5 rock rule, and I was skipping this game. So I went to put the guard back,
Yeah.
and my teammate here comes running down the ice going, no, 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 that rock stays out. and and I'm all confused because it used to be so easy with the four
Yeah.
rock rule, because it was just once you have a second, they can peel. Now a second, you're like, okay, wait, who is the hammer? Is that the 5th rock?
You have to do some math.
So right. So when he says, no, 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 put the rock, put it, or it's fine to peel that. And I'm looking around, I'm counting the rocks. I'm going, I don't think it is. I think it has to go back. And he goes, no, no, no. He was the second. Yeah, but we have, it's the 5th rock. And we were both like speaking different languages, it seemed like, until finally, he said, wait, there's a 5 rock rule? Since when?
You know what's great with that story? You know how we always say, you know how you always have those seconds that love to add their 2 cents in terms of what we should do for strategy? And we always say, it's another
Mhm.
example of the seconds. Just don't say anything. But no, like honestly, I think I've played a ladder game where someone actually had to point out, oh, that wasn't the 5th rock. And I'm like, oh, right. Because we're so used to the 4 rock rule.
It's true, and come to think of it, one of the last games we played before the shutdown, we played that little fun tournament. We violated the 5 rock rule and didn't realize it. It was only when we were sitting there after the game, and it was in an extra end too. We're sitting after the game with the other team, and we just said, "Oh, oh yeah, whoops."
Yeah, it's true. It really doesn't matter at the club level. And that's the thing too. Like I don't think we should get to a point where club level has a set of rules and the elite grand slams and the worlds have their own set of rules. It just, again, it makes things too complicated. I don't think it's going to benefit the game in the long run. I think if the main concern for Curling Canada and just like the curling federations as a whole is to make curling more interesting, then I think that they should just promote mixed doubles or like other forms of the game
Hmm.
more.
And I don't think, yeah, and I think we've mentioned this before, but I don't think these little gimmicks are likely to have a lasting effect
Hmm.
on viewer retention or reaching new audiences.
Yeah.
That I think requires more thinking outside the box. And I don't have the answer to it, but little tiny adjustments are not likely going to bring in
Uh,
fans. You can't go to a friend who has zero affiliation with curling and say, "Hey, you got to watch the sport. Now you can't tick centerline guards anymore." It's not going to work.
yeah, I don't know if the whole point though is for fans or just to keep the game more challenging for the players. However, with all of this being said, to be fair, I think if we were to implement a new rule, I do think that the Grand Slams are great opportunities to test these rules out. Out of all the
Right.
tournaments out there, I think these are the ones that are great to see. All right, this rule didn't work. This rule
Right,
did.
you might as well. You might as
Exactly,
well.
and you have, like, the top of the top lane, so, yeah, out of all the places, these are the events where we should be testing out these rules, um, but again, I feel like we have to be careful not to create too many rules to keep it simple.
Yeah. So hey, Kelly, on a different note, it wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't talk fashion, right?
That's true, it's our favorite topic.
Of course. So we've been pretty harsh on some teams at the Worlds or Tournament of Hearts or Briar or whatever. So just looking here, I have a couple of fashion
Okay,
notes. What do we have here? Oh, okay. So because players had to wear masks during the final, uh, I'm not a big fan of the blue procedural masks. I have to wear them at work and things like that, but I don't really like the way they look. But I thought, you know what? They look okay on Team Scotland just because it matches their
yep,
colors.
that's true, it's very, on brand for them.
I also have that Nicholas Edin in the final was wearing the Swedish jerseys were weird this year. They were dark blue. They were very navy-ish.
Mhm.
So he was wearing navy blue. He had a black baseball cap on. He had a black mask. I have it in my notes that he looked like a ninja when he was sliding.
I have a comment on his hat. I don't know if you mentioned it, but for the first time ever, he decided to wear a baseball cap while curling, and it was a branded cap. So they had to put black tape where all the sponsorship was,
Hmm.
except they missed one spot
Oh yeah,
right,
you could see
right
it
at
in
the
back.
back. Yeah, like right above that little hole where uh, you have normally at the back of a baseball cap. It was, I guess we probably shouldn't name the company, but they missed a taping spot. Just saying.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Okay, yeah. What else do we have fashion wise?
Do we want to talk about that picture you sent me earlier this week?
Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. Oh, one more thing. Speaking of Team Edin, I don't know if you noticed this, but they had a little blurb on their jersey that one of their sponsors, it had a little speech balloon
Okay.
and there was some text in it that was Swedish. So I had no idea what it
Did you
meant,
Google
but I
Translate?
was really curious. I tried to. I had to find a picture where I could actually read
Uh
it,
huh.
and I didn't put in that much effort, to be honest, but I got a couple of words into Google Translate, but I couldn't make out the middle word. There's some weird characters that I couldn't really make out, but it said something like "together for the something movement." I don't know what movement it is though. That's the word I couldn't translate. But I was
Oh.
curious about it all week. I thought it was a little Instagram logo underneath, so I
Yeah.
thought it said follow us on Instagram or something like that, but I think I was completely wrong. By the way, don't follow us on
Yes,
Instagram.
at behind the T dot curling.
So that was a plug, I have to say. That was pretty good. Oh yeah, the other thing that you commented on was that first of all, hats off to Team RCF. What a week.
Oh yeah.
Uh I had never heard of that team before, and that especially the skip. Every time they cut to him, he was making ridiculous
And
shots.
he's a young guy too. I think he's only 25 plus or minus a couple
Right.
years. So he's I'm sure we'll see him coming out of Russia for a while. Russia has some weird rules, so who knows.
Yes.
And sorry, not Russia, RCF.
Right. One day maybe they'll be allowed to call themselves Russia again. But I think you pointed this out. I think it was the
Yes,
third.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Needs to learn how to zip up his jacket, right?
Isn't it the most annoying thing? So yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's the third for Russia. He keeps his jacket on just unzipped. Who does that?
Or it's zipped, but like really far
No,
down.
I've seen it completely unzipped throughout the
Oh, okay,
week.
well The other day he had it like zipped just at the bottom.
It's like if you're too hot to have it zipped up, take it off. And then it's like flapping in the wind.
Oh, I know. I would not be able to curl with
If I were on team RCF, I would tell him to take it off.
yeah. So there's not much for RCF to improve on after the amazing week they had, except
Well,
that.
maybe if he took his jacket off, it would have resulted in a couple more made shots and they would be in the final. Just saying.
Yeah, we know what we're talking
Yep.
about. And yeah, I think that does it for what I have written down here, except this is complete. Oh, just very quickly off topic. I'm sad to tell you, Kelly, that we are, as Quebecers, we are not eligible to play the Alberta curling
Oh
50-50.
no. More
That's
competition.
the latest. Yes, that is the latest ad that went ad nauseum nonstop during the World
Do you
Championships.
know
And
how much
play the Alberta.
do you know how much they raised so far? I have the
How
number.
much? Oh,
They've raised
look at this. We actually.
the total jackpot. This is I think it's the total amount of money, not the 50-50 amount.
Hmm.
800,000.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, somebody in Alberta is going to be making some money.
Yeah. I don't know if the 50-50 goes for the whole duration of the bubble or they do it every couple. Because usually in an event, normally, if you ever go
Hmm.
to a curling event, whether it be Briar, World, Trial, whatever, you name it, they do like a 50-50 for every draw. So I don't know if they're doing something similar for Alberta.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked it up because I mean I already knew that because we've already mentioned we live in Quebec, which means we're not allowed to enter any national level contest where there's prizes being offered. But apparently, I think it's only open to Alberta.
It says in white font at the bottom of the screen.
Uh,
I wonder if it has to do probably has to do with like tax purposes or something like that,
I
right?
guess it makes total sense. But I'm thinking, hey, you're spamming us with your
Uh-huh.
ads. I should be allowed to participate if you're going to be showing it to me every single commercial break.
Oh, speaking of commercial breaks, can we segue into that for a little bit?
Yes.
I have to say one thing that was nice about the Grand Slam and refreshing is the new commercials that we haven't seen yet this year. And
Yes, although I did not like the Pinty's ad.
oh, I did not either. Oh, I was a little confused too because I wasn't sure if the ad was for chicken wings or if Pinty's have expanded their repertoire of food and now they have you can buy a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, like they had bacon or something
Yeah,
too. They were like, since 1943, Pinty's has been supply. I don't
and
know.
I'm like, Pinty's has been has been around since 1943.
That's true. And I would think that if they've been around that long, they probably are doing more than just chicken wings.
Yeah, and I also Pinty's aside, so I think in general, I feel like the commercials on Sportsnet just have better budget than TSN, or maybe they just don't have these local agriculture companies coming at them with their commercials. But I did notice a lot more. All of the New Holland tractor trailer commercials have been replaced by car commercials, which is
Hmm.
very like on brand for sport channels. And also Philadelphia cheese and that angel that will not retire. I remember 10 years
Oh, right.
remember
I think we brought her up before.
yeah, well the Philadelphia angel has been around forever, right? And I feel like 10 years ago they came out with a commercial where she was like, I'm retiring, here's the new angel. But every year, this old angel is still around. And I'm just like, girl, are you going to retire from your Philadelphia angel days?
I think that's the Philadelphia Corporation capitalizing on this trend of reviving old 90s things,
Mm,
like how the Roseanne spinoff is back, and like every 90s show came back, it
yeah.
feels like.
Did you
And
hear that Friends is coming back? As a
I did.
special. As a special, not like a full.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a.
Because it'd be too much.
How do you feel about, quick aside, how do you feel about this? Because most things, from my understanding, I've not really seen many of these spin-off things, but true fans, of which I am not one when it comes to Friends,
Yeah.
uh, usually don't have much positive to say.
That is very true. However, I'm actually quite excited. But I'm going in with low expectations, right? Because
Okay.
Friends was so iconic and a true 90s show. It was just fantastic. And I think if they were to do Friends 2.0, it just really wouldn't be good. So I like that the fact that they're staying with a special, but I also know from seeing other show revivals that they just haven't been as good, or they're like overly cheesy and they're just like trying to, they bring back all those old jokes. But so I'm kind of going into this with this in mind. So I'm already expecting cheesy. I'm expecting tacky. I'm expecting old jokes. I'm expecting it not to be fantastic. So it's going to end up being good.
Okay, interesting. I had the same feeling because recently they released the trailer for Space Jam 2,
Okay.
which I don't know, the 90s kid in me wants to love
Uh
it,
huh.
but at the same time, I think like, well, that was the greatest movie ever made. And what are we doing messing with it? That's right. I said it. I'm calling it best movie of the
We just
90s.
lost a couple of listeners
I
there.
think we just gained some listeners. Excuse me.
Well, on
But
that note, I don't know if you saw the Top Gun 2 trailer that has
oh,
been
yeah, I saw
pushed
it when you sent it to me.
out over a year now. I think it's supposed to come out now in July-ish, but who knows? And let me tell you, I'm pretty excited to watch it.
I know you are.
You know, Kenny Loggins,
Yes.
Jets. That's all you need.
And I was thinking, by the way, because we've brought up the Philadelphia cream cheese angel before, and was sitting here for the last 30 seconds going, why the hell would we bring her up? What does she have to do with curling? And I think I've got the connection.
Whoa. Okay.
And it's that I think we made a comment. Any avid listeners can maybe tell me if I'm right. A while back that we said it'd be cool if the Strauss Corporation came back. Unfortunately, Jim Strauss is dead, but it'd be really cool if we checked in with him, like if he were still alive, if he could pop back up with Randy Furman. Randy, how's your game all these years later?
That's true. That would have been
I
hilarious.
think that's what we said. I don't know, but just going
I
with
don't
it.
know. Maybe his son can take over and do
Hmm.
that. You know what? I feel like
Yeah.
we need to get into. I'm already in the marketing field. I feel like I have to move over to commercial marketing and somehow get that in there.
Oh, I know. I have zero training, yet I've watched curling my whole life. So I feel like I have extensive
Yeah.
training, mostly in how not to do things. And speaking of how not to do things, we have to get this out
Yep.
there. I'll let you take the lead on our Canadian tuxedo story here.
Yes. So I woke up the other day to someone sending me a beautiful image of. I don't even know how to describe this. It is so ugly. So on the TSN Instagram account, they released the new jackets for Team Canada at the Olympics. And I don't even have the words to describe how absolutely ugly and embarrassing and a tragedy that someone one designed this,
Wow.
people approved it. It's still posted on the TSN Instagram page, and if you read the comments, they are not good. And as the one of the two members working on the Behind the Tee dog hurling Instagram account,
And the one who knows actually how to work Instagram. So
exactly. I was like, well, we have to promote ourselves, and I made my feelings on behalf of both of us known as a comment. And essentially I just wrote that telling TSN and I guess the Hudson Bay, who usually makes the Team Canada outfits for the Olympics, that April Fools was 2 weeks ago, and that this is not acceptable. So just to describe it, what it was a jean jacket, which in itself, I love jean jackets. Should they be worn by athletes at an Olympic event? Absolutely not. They just have graffiti all over it.
yeah, like Tokyo 2020 was like, it looks like it's spray
It
painted on.
is. And then Canada's spray painted in some it was so ugly.
But it is authentically Canadian, right? Like the whole Canadian tuxedo
Are
idea.
they going to send them in jeans too?
I'm wondering, like, they didn't mention that part. And so part of me, like, I didn't like it either. I have to get that out there. I did not like it, but part of me was like, it's an interesting idea. Not fashionable, but just it's very Canadian. I don't know.
No, no.
No?
You see,
Okay,
this
it's
is
decided.
how concepts are developed. People work on a couple of them and they present it to a board, and they pick the ones they like and you refine it. I'm sorry. Like, who agreed to this?
And you know what I can tell you is that
What were the other ideas that they came up with that weren't as good as this jean jacket?
I'd be curious. And I don't know if you've ever bought any of this Olympic merchandise. When I was a kid, I loved it.
I always buy the mitt, the Canadian mitts.
The mitts are
Yeah.
okay, yeah. But I remember buying like the hoodie from one of the Olympics. I put it in the wash and it was already pretty much ruined.
Really?
Like it was low quality. Maybe they give the athletes higher quality. And when you go to the Bay or
probably,
Zellers or
yeah.
whatever it was at the time, it wasn't the highest quality. But I remember they were not great. They were not particularly comfortable. They got ruined when I washed them, and they were extremely expensive. You remember the Vancouver Olympics? Like everybody talked about the mitts, but the athletes had these kind of nice sweaters that looked like they were all knit.
Yeah.
Those were $200 or something like that. They were outrageously expensive. So I can only imagine how much that denim thing is going to go for.
Can you actually see people buying them and wearing them on the streets on a regular day? Absolutely not. Because at least the other sweaters and stuff, it's still like a sporty outfit, so you'll wear it doing your activities. But when are you going to wear a jean jacket? Going shopping? You're going to wear that?
So yeah, I think they're really expensive. I don't know. I'm not about to drop $200 on a jean jacket, I have to say. Although I have to say, I think it would be kind of funny. Is this worth spending $200? No, but pretty close to like give it to somebody like you and just watch their reaction.
Is it worth $200 though? I don't
think so. I don't think so. But hey, if it were $10, I think I would.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Like, happy birthday, Kelly. Just like watch what happens.
Oh dear. Well, we've been on a tangent there.
So one more thought before we put an end to this is with the World Championships wrapping up. So I predicted Switzerland early on, but you did predict Edine, right?
No, I predicted Botcher.
Oh, shoot. Okay, sorry. I thought you picked Edine.
No, I didn't. One thing, so I finished editing last week's episode right before we're recording this one.
Oh, you should have doctored it.
I should have. I think we guessed every team in the event except Eden. Like, we didn't want him to win.
Yes, and that was my final note is what the hell were we thinking? And in fact, you know, when Vic does his little closing montage that makes us all cry, that okay, I wanted to see if like you
I know I get emotional during his montages.
I do. I
really
like his
done.
montages. Yeah. They are well done. And you know what made me emotional during this one? He's like something about how they embraced being in the bubble, and they showed the Korean team holding up Tim Hortons cups, and I was like, yeah, good for you guys. But one thing he said, I actually wrote this quote down.
Yeah.
He said, "Gone are the days when you can predict the winner before any rocks are thrown." Well, that's a nice thought, Vic, but no, it isn't. What we learned from this is that we were idiots to not call Edine right before it began.
You know what, though? I feel like subconsciously we didn't want Edine to win, or at least I can't speak for you, but for me, I didn't want him to win, not because he didn't deserve it, but I was just tired of seeing him win all the time, and I wanted another team to win. So that's why that played a part in my pick, because I was like, if I pick another team, then maybe that will give them the edge to win, you know?
That's a much better excuse than I have. I thought I saw vulnerability, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
But you know what? Good for him. I think he deserves to be mentioned as. So I know we've mentioned or we've debated the greatest women's curlers of all time. I guess all we can say is that when we have that debate for men, which we will at some point, not today, Nicholas Edine will be right up there. How can he not be?
Yeah, I think for men, there's not much of a debate. I think it's pretty obvious who the greatest of all time is. And I think we can also make some predictions because we're great at that of who will be the next greatest of all time. I already have some names in my head. But that'll be a discussion for another time.
Oh, sweet.
So catch us on the flip side.
That's it. And for all you hockey fans out there, this is the last note I have. This is my last ditch effort to get it out there. I had my phone in airplane mode during trade deadline day.
Oh no.
That is the worst. That's all I got.
I feel for you. All right, everyone. Bye.
Struggle is real. Bye.